Disclaimer. This story explores mature emotional themes, including family dynamics and romantic relationships. While it contains no explicit material, viewer discretion is advised. I never expected to feel this way about someone who was once just a part of my life by circumstance, and I certainly never expected him to feel the same. But love has a way of sneaking up on you when you least expect it. Especially when you're alone, vulnerable, and face-to-face with the one person who sees right through you. I was sitting in the dimly lit living room, the quiet hum of the city outside barely breaking the silence. My wife, Sarah, was out of town for the weekend, attending a conference. It had been a while since I had the house to myself, and at first I relished the solitude. I poured myself a glass of wine, curled up on the couch, and let the soft glow of the lamp cast shadows along the walls. And then there was a knock at the door. Not just any knock. The kind that makes your pulse stutter, makes you hesitate before standing. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there he was. Ethan, my stepson. I hadn't seen him in months. He had been traveling, finishing up his post-grad studies, and for the past couple of years, our relationship had been complicated. The kind of complicated that neither of us spoke about, but both felt pressing in the space between us. "Hey," he said, his deep voice a quiet contrast to the night's stillness. "Ethan?" I blinked. "What are you doing here?" He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck, something almost hesitant in his expression. "I was in town, thought I'd stop by." A simple excuse. A flimsy one, really. But there was something in his eyes. Something unreadable. Something unspoken. I should have told him it wasn't a good time. That it was late. That he should have called first. Instead, I stepped aside, heart pounding against my ribs. "Come in." Ethan walked past me, and just like that, the air inside shifted. He had always been handsome. Sarah's late husband's son. A few years younger than me, but always carrying himself like someone who knew exactly what he wanted. It had been easy to ignore before, when Sarah was around. When there were boundaries, I could convince myself I wasn't tempted to cross. But now? Alone in the quiet, with nothing but memories between us? I closed the door, pulse thrumming, and turned to face him. "Why are you really here, Ethan?" He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And that was the moment I knew. Whatever line we had drawn before, was about to disappear. Ethan's gaze held mine, and for a moment the air between us felt too thick. Like words unsaid were pressing against the walls, desperate to be acknowledged. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to move. "Sit down," I said, nodding toward the couch, as if offering something as simple as a seat would keep my thoughts from spiraling. He hesitated for half a second before shrugging off his jacket, his movements slow and deliberate. "You always keep the place this quiet?" he asked, glancing around, his voice laced with something I couldn't quite place. "I like the quiet," I said, settling into the armchair opposite him, keeping distance between us. But I didn't expect company. Ethan's lips quirked slightly, but there was no real humor in it. "I know, I should have called." He leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "I just needed to see you." His words sent a shiver down my spine. Needed. We had never spoken like this before. Not directly. Our relationship had always been bound by circumstance, dictated by Sarah. He was her stepson. I was her wife. We had our roles, our places in her life. It had been easy to hide behind that. But Sarah wasn't here now. And for the first time, we were forced to face the undercurrent of something neither of us had dared to name. I cleared my throat, shifting in my seat. "How was Europe?" I asked, steering us toward safer ground. "Fine," Ethan said, though his tone was distant. He leaned back, exhaling slowly, as if searching for the right words. But no matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that I left something unfinished. His dark eyes found mine again, steady and unrelenting. That we left something unfinished. My breath hitched. There it was. The thing we never talked about. The thing we both pretended didn't exist. The stolen moments. The glances that lingered too long. The way his fingers had once brushed against mine in the kitchen, both of us freezing as if the touch had been an accident. But we both knew it hadn't been. I had spent months convincing myself I imagined it. That it was all in my head. That he was just being kind. That I was just reading too much into things. But I hadn't been. And neither had he. "Ethan," I started. But my voice was barely a whisper. He shook his head, cutting me off gently. "You don't have to say it." A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. "I just needed you to know." I let out a shaky breath, looking away because meeting his gaze felt like standing too close to the edge of a cliff. "I shouldn't feel this way," I murmured, more to myself than him. "But you do," he said simply. Silence stretched between us, heavy and charged. 1,000 memories flashed in my mind at once. The first time we met. The way I had been so careful. So guarded. So determined to keep our relationship nothing more than what it was supposed to be. The way, over time, something had shifted. The way my heart had betrayed me. "I don't know what you expect me to say," I admitted finally, my voice barely steady. Ethan tilted his head slightly, considering me, his expression unreadable. "I don't expect anything," he said. "I just wanted to see if I was crazy, or if you felt it too." I forced a bitter laugh. That's a dangerous thing to admit. His lips curved in something softer this time. Something almost sad. "Yeah," he said. "But I've never been afraid of danger." A slow, humming tension filled the room. This was dangerous. But the real danger wasn't what was between us. The real danger was pretending it wasn't there. And now that the words were out, there was no going back. The silence stretched between us. Heavy as storm clouds before the first drop of rain. Ethan didn't move. Didn't push. But he didn't retreat either. He just watched me. Waiting. I wished I could ignore the way my pulse thrummed in my ears. The way my body felt acutely aware of his presence in a way I had no right to feel. I stood abruptly. Needing space. Needing something to hold on to that wasn't him. I walked to the kitchen, pouring another glass of wine with slightly unsteady hands. Maybe the alcohol would dull whatever this was. This ache. This fear. This longing I couldn't name. But before I could take a sip, I felt him behind me. Not touching. Not speaking. But close enough that the air between us felt charged. Humming with something fragile and dangerous. "You're running," Ethan said quietly. I closed my eyes. "I'm not." A beat of silence. Then softer. "Then look at me." I turned, slowly, and the moment our eyes met, I knew I was losing this battle. I swallowed. "Ethan, we..." "Don't," he murmured, stepping just a fraction closer. Don't say we shouldn't. Don't tell me it's wrong. We both know this isn't about right or wrong. A lump formed in my throat. Sarah? I love her, he interrupted, his voice steady but laced with something deeper. She's family. And so are you. He exhaled sharply. But what's between us? It's real. You can't tell me you don't feel it. I did. God, I did. And that was the problem. I shook my head, gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping me upright. You don't understand, Ethan. If we cross this line, there's no going back. We could ruin everything. His jaw tightened. Or we could stop pretending. The weight of his words pressed against my ribs, squeezing something I had tried so hard to bury. The problem wasn't whether I wanted him. The problem was that I did. And I had for longer than I cared to admit. But there were lines. There were consequences. And yet. You think Sarah doesn't see it? Ethan's voice was quiet, but it hit like a thunderclap. You think she hasn't noticed the way we act around each other? The way we avoid being alone for too long? The way you can't even look at me without. He trailed off, his gaze dark and unreadable. She knows something's there. My breath hitched. She's never said anything. Because she trusts us. The words cut deep, slicing through every excuse I had built to keep this buried. I shook my head, more at myself than at him. We can't do this. Ethan studied me for a long moment. Then, finally, he stepped back. His absence somehow just as intense as his closeness had been. His lips parted, as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he just nodded, his expression unreadable. I should go. Something inside me clenched at the thought, but I didn't stop him. I couldn't. He grabbed his jacket and walked toward the door. But just as he reached it, he hesitated, glancing back. When you're ready to be honest with yourself, he murmured, you know where to find me. And with that, he was gone, leaving nothing but the echo of what had just happened. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Because the truth was, I already knew. I wasn't afraid of what I felt for Ethan. I was afraid of what it would mean when I finally stopped fighting it. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed, turned, replayed every second of our conversation until my mind blurred the edges. But nothing could dull the way Ethan's words had dug under my skin. The way my chest tightened every time I thought about him standing in that doorway, waiting for me to admit the truth. By the time morning arrived, I had almost convinced myself that distance would fix this. That Ethan's absence would force my heart to fall back into place. I was wrong, because the next evening, he was back. I had just stepped out of the shower when I heard it. The knock at the door. 3 sharp taps, measured, purposeful. My stomach twisted. I could ignore it. Pretend I wasn't home. But we both knew I wouldn't. Heart pounding, I threw on a robe and made my way to the door. Every step waited with anticipation. I hesitated for half a second before opening it, my breath catching in my throat. Ethan stood there, his expression unreadable, his hands shoved into the pockets of his leather jacket. I tried to stay away, he said, voice low. I really did. My fingers clenched around the doorknob. Ethan, but I can't. His jaw tightened, frustration lacing his voice. I can't pretend like this doesn't exist. Like we don't exist. I exhaled shakily, glancing past him at the empty street, the weight of the moment pressing down on my ribs. You shouldn't be here. But I am. The air between us buzzed with something unspoken, something inevitable. I swallowed hard. If Sarah finds out. His gaze darkened. She already knows. The words sent a chill through me. What? Ethan let out a breath, his hands running through his hair, as if debating how much to say. She called me last night, asked me about you. My heart lurched. What did you tell her? He shook his head. Nothing. But she's not stupid. She sees the way you look at me, the way I look at you. He let the words hang between us before stepping forward, his voice quiet but firm. She knows, whether we admit it or not. My pulse thundered. This was the moment, the breaking point. I could push him away, slam the door, pretend none of this had ever happened. Or I could stop lying to myself. Ethan watched me, waiting, just like he had last night. I took a slow, shuddering breath, my grip tightening on the doorframe. I don't know how to stop this, I whispered. His lips parted slightly and something shifted in his expression. Something raw, something unguarded. Then don't. He murmured. A single moment stretched into eternity. And then, I moved. Or maybe he did. Maybe we both did. Meeting in the space between uncertainty and inevitability. All I knew was the feel of his hands as they gripped my waist. The way my body melted against his. The way his breath was warm against my skin, his lips hovering just inches from mine. Waiting. Giving me the chance to run. But I didn't run. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I was home. For a fleeting moment, I let myself sink into the warmth of his embrace. The weight of his hands grounding me in something that felt inevitable. Then, my phone rang. The sharp sound sliced through the moment and I jerked back, pulse hammering. Ethan released me slowly, his fingers lingering at my waist before dropping away. His expression shifting from heat to something more cautious. I turned, snatching my phone off the table, my breath catching when I saw the name on the screen. Sarah. A cold wave of reality crashed over me. I hesitated. Answering meant facing whatever she knew. Ignoring it meant avoiding the truth a little longer. Ethan's eyes darkened as he read my expression. Answer it. My fingers trembled as I swiped the screen. Hey, I said, my voice too breathy, too unsteady. Sarah's tone was eerily calm. Are you alone? My mouth went dry. I don't lie. Silence. Ethan stiffened beside me, his jaw tightening. Sarah let out a slow exhale. I need to talk to you. Now face to face, my stomach twisted. Sarah, what's going on? A pause. Then. It's about Ethan. Every hair on my body stood on end. I glanced at Ethan, confusion knotting my chest. He frowned, shaking his head slightly, as if to say, I don't know what this is about either. Sarah's voice was softer now, almost pitying. Meet me at the cafe on Birchwood in 30 minutes. A beat of silence. Come alone. The line went dead. I stared at the screen, my heart slamming against my ribs. What did she say? Ethan asked, his voice measured but laced with tension. I forced myself to meet his gaze. She wants to talk. His brows furrowed. About what? I swallowed hard. You. A flicker of something crossed his face. Something unreadable. Neither of us spoke. But one thing was certain. This wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The cafe on Birchwood felt eerily empty when I arrived. It wasn't. Not really. There were people scattered at tables, the hiss of an espresso machine humming in the background. But my world had narrowed to a single focus. Sarah. She sat near the window, her fingers wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee, her expression unreadable. I inhaled deeply, forcing my legs to move. With each step, my mind raced through every possible scenario. She knew about Ethan and me. She was furious. She was leaving me. But when I slid into the seat across from her, it wasn't anger in her eyes. It was sadness. And something else. Something that made my stomach twist in knots. You came. She said quietly. I nodded, my pulse thundering. You said it was about Ethan. She studied me for a long moment. Then let out a slow breath. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Dread curled in my gut. Sarah, what? She lifted a hand, silencing me. Just listen. She glanced out the window, as if gathering the strength to continue. Then. Ethan isn't my late husband's son. The words knocked the breath from my lungs. What? She turned back to me. Her gaze heavy with something unreadable. He's mine. I blinked. Yours? My biological son. She clarified. I had him when I was very young. Too young. My parents forced me to give him up for adoption. Her voice wavered slightly, but she pressed on. Years later, when I married Richard, I found out he had adopted a boy. I didn't say anything at first. I thought maybe it was fate. That I was meant to have Ethan back in my life in some way. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. Sarah's voice softened. I raised him like a stepson because I had to. But he's always been more than that. And I never told him the truth. My throat was dry. Why are you telling me this now? She hesitated. Because he's in love with you. The words hit harder than anything else. Sarah exhaled. Her eyes searching mine. And I think. You're in love with him too. I gripped the edge of the table, my world tilting. Sarah, She shook her head. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I just needed you to know the truth before you made a choice you can't take back. My breath came in shallow bursts. Ethan wasn't Richard's son. He wasn't bound to Sarah by blood. Only by secrets. And now I had a choice to make. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. My mind was a mess of tangled emotions. But one thing was clear. I needed to see him. Sarah didn't stop me as I rushed out of the cafe, my heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't stop running until I reached Ethan's apartment. When he opened the door, the confusion on his face lasted only a second before he saw the look in my eyes. I took a shaky breath, stepping closer. There's something you need to know. His brows furrowed. What is it? I swallowed hard, reaching for his hand. And then I told him everything. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us. His mother. Sarah had been his mother all along. And she had never told him. His hands curled into fists, his breathing uneven. She lied to me. He murmured, almost to himself. I reached for him instinctively. She was scared, Ethan. She thought she was protecting you. He let out a bitter laugh. Protecting me from what? From the truth? From knowing who I really am? He exhaled sharply, turning away, running a hand through his hair. God, my whole life. I thought Richard was my father. That my connection to Sarah was just circumstance. But this changes everything. I stayed quiet, letting him process it. Because the truth was, I knew exactly how he felt. The way the ground beneath your feet suddenly didn't feel steady anymore. After a long moment, he turned back to me. His eyes darker, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen them. And you? His voice was softer now. Does this change anything for you? I swallowed hard. It changes what we thought was standing in our way. I stepped closer. But it doesn't change how I feel. Ethan searched my face, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, his fingers brushed against mine. For the first time, there was nothing between us. No secrets, no guilt, no fear. Just us. A soft exhale escaped him, almost like a laugh. So what now? I smiled. My heart finally light. Now, we start over. 1 year later, the past 12 months had been a whirlwind of healing. Of confronting the past and making peace with it. Ethan and Sarah had taken time to rebuild their relationship. To have the difficult conversations that had been buried for too long. It hadn't been easy. There had been anger, hurt, even distance. But in the end, love had won. And as for us? I looked across the candlelit table at Ethan, my fingers laced with his. We really made it, I murmured. He smiled, squeezing my hand. Told you I wasn't afraid of danger. I laughed, shaking my head. Turns out, neither am I. Love had found us in the most unexpected way. It had broken us, tested us, and put us back together stronger than before. And now, for the first time, the future felt wide open. And I couldn't wait to see where it took us next. Did you enjoy the story? We'd love to hear from you. What did you think of the ending? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Drop a comment below and let us know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging stories like this.